Welcome to Roundtable Mindset, the podcast where we seek to understand and share different perspectives in order to grow and challenge our own. And we encourage you, our guest, to do the same.
Each week, we will pick a topic to discuss sharing our own unique thoughts and insights. There will be times when we won't agree, and let's be real, that's probably going to be most of the time, and that's okay. We feel it's important to understand that we can live in this polarized world and still respect one another and even be friends.
Well, hello, and welcome back to Roundtable Mindset. This is Jamie.
And I'm Malin.
And we're here for another episode of our exciting podcast, Roundtable Mindset.
And it's a new year, and we didn't pick a new word.
Coming back to you for 2024 with more excitement than ever. We're oozing with excitement.
It's flowing out of us. I can tell it already. So, Jamie, how was your, holidays? How was your New Year's?
Well, holidays were good. Had some weather, and so plans get postponed and all of that fun stuff. But I'm not going to lie. It was my first Christmas not having kids in my house. And it was my first Christmas not seeing one of my kiddos because of the weather like that day. So it was a little weird for me. I'm adjusting. So someday I will not talk about being an empty nester, but today it feels appropriate because I'm like, oh, it was a little weird.
It's not going to be in 2024 is what you're telling me. So, okay. No, I can only imagine because again, this was our last Christmas and New Year's with my daughter who will be going off to college in the fall, being kind of underneath our house. And so we were doing, without saying it, we were doing a lot of the last, making sure we did all of the Christmas traditions, all of the New Year traditions, just making sure we could really spend time with her because we expect her to come home for the holidays this year.
Right.
But it's just kind of one of those things I don't think it will be the same with her not living underneath our house. And I don't know. So that was what we did. Our holidays were full of, we call it Christmas light looking. So we went Christmas light looking. We did open the presents. We did our annual toast to the new year. So all those really great things. So it was fun. It was a good time.
That is a good time. It's good. But I think as we were talking about what we're going to talk about today and what we would do for food for thought and stuff like that, it all kind of wraps into this even this reflective space. And I don't know what it is about the holidays that does that. That kind of makes me a little sentimental and things like that. But I think our whole episode today is kind of going to be food for thought because that's really where I'm at. I don't know about you, but
I agree. It's like one of those things. For me, I think as I was thinking about this over the holidays, it's the first time where I have dedicated time for a long period. So, you have Thanksgiving, that's a nice long weekend, and then you go into the Christmas season, and maybe it's the line of work that I do, but I get it. I'm fortunate enough to be able to take an extended period of time off around the holidays. So work ends for me for the year, and then you have all this just time that's just down with the family, doing all these different traditions that you've done as a kid. So you start remembering the past, and I mentioned before that my mom has passed away. And so some of these traditions that we do, you remember the time that you did them with your parents. So I think it just naturally lends itself to a reflective time of year. And then the year ends, right? So now you're like, okay, we wrapped up 2023 and now 2024 is at our doorsteps. What do we want to do with it? What do we want to achieve? And then I get all excited with all these things of, oh, here's all these new ideas that I just want to start implementing in 2024 or the new year. And that's kind of how my brain works and how it all kind of just gets jumbled together. And I think a lot of people experience that this time of year. A lot of things come to a close and a lot of new things start beginning anew. And And again, if you take the calendar out of the way, it is just one day turns into the next, which turns into the next. But because we have the calendar, there's end points and there's beginning points. And at least that's what helps me.
Yeah. Well, and I do think the media really pushes this along as well. Like, because even this morning, I'm still getting notifications of stories about, 2024 was this, or 2023 was this, but we can look forward to this in 2024. And, you have all of those, like the celebrities we lost specials and things like that. I mean, it just really is a reflective time for everyone, I think. But, so I thought we could kind of kick off today maybe with a little bit of a year in review and some conversation around what's to come. So let's talk about 2023. What was 2023 for you, my friend?
Okay, so I'm looking back, and usually I can pull a theme out of every year, right? Like, so if there was a big transitional year, there would be a year of transition, I'm using air quotes, or if there was, most of the year was about prosperity, then, you had a prosperous year. For me and my family, 2023 was a great year. It was a year of stability. Not that we've had a lot in the years prior that we had a lot of changes, but it just seemed like everybody kind of found their niche. So, I had recently changed jobs in 2022. So 2023 was really me kind of just getting acclimated into the new company, into my new role. So that was kind of stabilizing. And then you have my daughter who is getting out of high school. She was wrapping up some of her last classes, and so she was finding her rhythm, and then how she starts incorporating working full time. So then that kind of stabilized for her. My youngest child went from the elementary space over into it's called the 6th grade center, but really it's the beginning part of middle school. All his entire, dynamic has changed, but he found his rhythm and kind of had things stabilized there. And then my son, who was he's a freshman, finding all those new friends that he has. He's playing on a different football team, just finding his rhythm as well when he's in high school now, because he's never been there. So I hear myself as I say those, that could be that could be considered a year of destabilization. And here I'm reflecting at it as it's more stabilizing because of the way we were able to overcome and kind of work through that. My wife, she's always been a rock for the family. And in 2023, she's still balanced going to work for the school versus staying home versus her social life. And so again, it's just 2023, if I wanted to look back and put a name to it, it would be, that was kind of the year that we stabilized in a lot of different areas and kind of just worked through it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it just sounds like settling in, like everybody's kind of getting to that space where they're finding their place and their niche. And that is really cool. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I would be remiss if I didn't say the elephant in the room, which is the exciting part of 2023 is we started the podcast. So that's kind of been the wild card for me. So it's been a artistic outlet. It's been a creative side of me has been able to come out. It's been scary. It's been fun. It's been sometimes just downright overwhelming. So it's been a lot. It's been a lot.
All of the things. It's been all of the things. Well, and I think if I were to reflect back on 2023 for myself, I do feel like it was a big year of transition or change. As my kids have grown and they're starting to go do their own things, and now it's me, my man, and a puppy, right? Like, yeah, I don't know. It's weird because it's like all of those years, and I did have a couple of friends warn me, like, hey, you have to make sure you know who you are when your kids are gone, because that's going to come someday, and then who are you? And, if your entire life is wrapped up around, parenting and all of your kids' activities, and you don't have any interest outside of that, what does that look like for you? So for me, I do feel like this podcast has been one of those things where, it is for me. It is something I enjoy. It's something that is just me and you, I mean, in my house, it's just me, you know what I'm saying? But, to put myself out there like that has been, it's been a lot of growing. And I don't know that I really thought about that until I think I verbalized that once to a friend, maybe. I don't remember, but I don't know that I really thought about the impact of that, because this really did come at that time. It came during the beginning of that transition when my son was moving out and my daughter was still here, but then she moved out and, oh, mercy. Yeah, I think this podcast has been a big part of my year as far as helping me refocus on what life is now, as compared to what it was for the last, 15 years. So.
No. Well, that's quite understandable, as your life has been really changed in 2023 compared to mine. And I don't think it's any secret. I kind of picked your brain. We have a couple other friends too, Jonna and Aaron, who their daughter moved into college a few years ago, and their son's this, a senior in high school, just like our daughter. So I kind of look at them to say, okay, what did you do with your daughter? And then your son's coming up, and I look at you, Jamie, and say, okay, what did you do with your two kids? And because my time's coming, right? I can feel it. I've mentioned it. I've tried to run away from it, and no matter what I do, it keeps getting closer day by day. And so I try to just lean in a little bit and to see, well, how did you do it? How did our friends do it? And try to keep an open mind and try to lean into that a little bit, which is daunting. So I commend you for the year that you just went through.
I also have to thank my kids for moving out, because if it wasn't for them, I don't know that I would even have the space for doing this. You know what I mean? I'm currently sitting in my son's old bedroom as my podcasting studio, which sounds way more official than it actually is, as I'm looking at, unwrapped Christmas gifts that I still need to wrap and get out. But it's been, I don't know if I would even be able to do this if it wasn't for this space in life anyway. You know
That's
what I mean?
Funny.
Which is kind of an interesting way to think about that too.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I wanted to touch on with you is, and this leads more into, the food for thought that we kind of, that you kind of mentioned earlier. A lot of times people look at the new year and they come up with New Year's resolutions and they set goals for themselves. And we could get into that just a little bit later. But one of the things that kind of dawned on me is, have you, I'm going to ask you personally, Jamie, have you ever stopped and thought about the regrets from the last year, 2023, as we go into 2024? Have you ever thought about those regrets that you've had? And do you leave them in that year, or do you bring them with you? Because I got to be honest, as I was reflecting on this for myself, nobody really talks about the regrets that happened in the year. I mean, I think in a roundabout way, you set your New Year's resolutions probably because there are some regrets. But even then, we don't ever think about them, or at least recognize them as regrets. We just look at these as new goals we're setting for ourselves because we failed in the previous year. But I want to pick at this a little bit to say, when I say regrets, I'm talking about, are there things that we carry with us from year to year that we should set down, that we should kind of just leave in the past and say, okay, that was then. I'm looking forward. I'm looking to new hope. I'm looking to new resolutions, to new goals, but I'm not bringing this with me anymore. Does that make sense? Do you have anything to kind of relate to that, or am I just babbling?
No, Malin, I don't have any idea. I'm just kidding. Yes.
I live my life regret-free. You go.
Right. Who has regrets? What's wrong with you? No, I'm just kidding. Here's the interesting thing. I have regrets? Absolutely. For instance, I feel like I don't know, I hate to dwell on this whole, my kids are gone and now everything's changed, but at the same time, I do feel like it's part of the process to be this last year. I think part of what has made it so difficult, when it has been difficult, is regret. It's, did I spend enough time? Did I really appreciate the moments that I had? Did I really give them everything that they needed so that they could be successful? Not that I'm going away or anything, but it's there's a definite difference in when they come to me and what they come to me for now as opposed to when they were younger. And so, I feel like a lot of that process for me has been wrapped up in regret or maybe worry that I didn't do it well enough, or you know what I mean? That kind of feeling or that kind of process. So,
well, and when I'm hearing you, because again, I'm going to touch on mine in just a second. There's also this word that comes along with that for me as well, and that word is called guilt. You know, when I get to my example of some of the regrets that I have that I keep carrying with me year after year after year, part of that is there's a little bit of guilt wrapped around there. And maybe the guilt is what makes me kind of bring that along with me. I don't know, but there's some things in my life, you know, hindsight's 2020. You can always look back and reflect and say, oh, I should have done that different. And for me, this term here, when I'm looking at that, it's not really so much those little opportunities where I wish I would have just changed a little bit, or, oh, I missed that opportunity, I regret that. I'm talking about some of the things that I have within me that I carry year after year, even when I sit, and again, I'm using air quotes because I don't put a lot of stock into New Year's resolutions. But when I'm making these resolutions for what I want the next year to be, I do these even subconsciously. I think I make these new goals, or I make these new resolutions around the fact that I'm still carrying around this regret that I did from maybe 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago. Who knows what it is? And that's why I wanted to hone on this for, you know, our episode and kind of the food for thought partish. I'll call it partish since it's all food for thought. It's because as I reflect, there are things that I carry with me year after year after year, and I can't be the only one, right? Like I can't be the one that's not forgiving myself enough, or realizing maybe one of these regrets was something that I failed at doing, but because it's what I was expecting for me to do was bigger than what I could accomplish on my own. And so I didn't complete my goal. So therefore now I have this regret that comes along with me, when actuality, if I just took a step back and thought about it, I could never have completed that on my own anyway. So then why should I carry around all this regret and remorse and guilt around an item that I was never able to attain anyways? And so as I look at this New Year's resolution and in this time period, I just wanted to put a different lens on there and talk about the regrets that we bring with us from year to year. And maybe we should leave in the past, and we don't. And so it's a different twist. I don't want this to be so like morbid and negative and, oh, it's the beginning of the year and here's Malin being a wet blanket. But I find it to be interesting, and I think a little helpful for me if I think in those terms, because I think there are some areas where I could just probably let some stuff go and I would be fine.
Well, and I think another thing that I heard, another part of that theme that I heard from you is even grief, you know, and as I reflect, I wonder if some of that is really what it is for me. It's not as much regret as it is grief. Like that chapter of life is done and now I'm starting something different. And it is probably some grief. And even to go back and to talk about those things that we carry from year to year, I do think that that's probably something that I have carried over and over and over again is, you know, have I done enough? Have I given them enough? Have I, have I savored the moments enough, you know, because someday they won't be there, you know? And I think that is a prime example of something that I carry over and over and over again. Yeah. What a good, I don't know. I guess most people do kind of go into the new year with like hope and excitement and all things new.
Which we should do, right? Like we should do, but which I want to do and I have been doing. But it's like, if I set a good example that we talked about, I'm just going to put this out there. So, you know, we set these New Year's resolutions and we put these lofty goals in there, right? Like, and I'm just going to use an example. I want to go to the gym every single day in 2024. That's my New Year's resolution. And then I get sick, or one of the kids get sick, or we go on vacation, or
or you just don't feel like going.
Or I don't feel like going. Like pick a variety of different reasons. And all of a sudden, my New Year's resolution is gone. And I'm speaking for me personally. I will look at that as I failed. This is the first moment. I am 2 weeks into the year. I failed there's no reason to move on. There's no reason to go on. And I almost conclude that New Year's resolution like, well, that lasted 2 weeks. That was great. And really, if we looked at the intention of what that New Year's resolution was, which is to change my lifestyle, to be healthier, why would I let one missed day, was my goal a certain number of days in the gym, or was my goal really around increasing and improving my lifestyle and my overall health? And if I would focus on that, missing a day here or a day there isn't going to prevent me from hitting that goal. And that's part of some of the regret that I was talking about too, is like I have these missed goals. Like I constantly beat myself up. Like my health is something that I've been looking at for year over year after year. And I haven't seen a lot of improvement. And so I just beat myself up all the time. Well, if I really like break that apart, it's because when I first set a goal and I missed that goal even by just one day, I just conclude that as, well, I can't do this. I'm done. My goal shot. When I should really be looking at what is the intention of me setting that goal, and am I still moving forward to complete that intention? Because if I change my perspective even that little bit on that one topic, if I miss a day or two here or there, it doesn't matter, because my overall goal is I'm moving forward. I'm moving it from where I'm at today in a different direction. And you can't unravel that or complete that in just one action. So it's a series of actions.
Right. Well, and it's interesting that you say that, because it kind of, it's like, this is a whole conversation about mindset, because I hate resolutions. I hate New Year's resolutions. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. And I have hated them for years, and I've done everything from standing in a group of people saying, oh yeah, I have a New Year's resolution. This is what it is. When I had zero intention of doing a New Year's resolution, right? I have also stood in a room fully believing that I am going to accomplish this New Year's resolution. And then I failed on day 12 of January. And so then I'm done. I have quit doing resolutions because they make me so angry.
I have been that person, Jamie, where my resolution was not to make a resolution because I knew I could meet that. That was me.
Yes. Well, and it's like a protest, a silent protest. A few years ago, though, I did shift a little bit. So I don't make a resolution, but I do make an intention. And I think that was kind of the spirit of what you're talking about too, is like, I want to be healthier, or I want to feel better, or whatever those things are. And so that intention for me is typically a word or a phrase or something like that. And, for I think 2 or 3 years in a row, the word was balance. That one took me a long time to get to. And sometimes I still don't always feel super balanced, actually. But I think it has been easier to recognize the steps that I take toward balance or toward that intention when I do it less as a resolution and more as like, no, this is the direction I want to go. So this is how I'm going to point myself in that vein. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, what I like about that, I don't know if I'll ever, and don't take this the wrong way, Jamie, that's like a little new agey for me to think I'm going to create an intention, but I like what you're doing, because it's not focusing on an action. It's focusing on the overall intent of where you want to go in the year. And that's really interesting. And that's what I was talking about earlier. So many times I focus on the action or a thing that I'm going to change, when I don't really take a step back and say, but what was the purpose of me doing that? Like me saying I'm going to go to the gym 365 days, and this year it's 366 days in the year. Well, that's unrealistic. I can't achieve that. I can't account for being out of town on work, or I can't account for being sick, or again, a variety of other things. And therefore, it's an unattainable goal that I've just set for myself. But if I don't ever just stop and listen and say, what was the purpose of me doing that? And focus on that, to me, that's a lot easier to attain. And then when we do the reflection back in, now my brain's starting to work a little bit faster. When you reflect at the end of the year on what you've done, suddenly that goal, that resolution, that intention, whatever you're going to call it, that is something that's attained, because you can look back and say, wow, here are all the steps that I did to improve my health. I went to the gym Maybe it wasn't every day, but maybe I went on average 5 times a week. Well, that's a huge difference, you know? And then maybe it's also, and I also cut out pop from my diet, or I ate more leafy greens, like whatever it is. Now you're not just saying, I set a goal to go to the gym and I failed, therefore my whole resolution is toast. It's now about actually recognizing the steps that you did to attain your purpose in setting that goal. And that's a success, because it doesn't matter if it's every day of the week you went, or if it's 4 days a week, but maybe you supplemented it with other steps as well. I really like that. And I think that would really kind of help me start setting down some of those regrets that I probably bring with me. And also use as a lens when I set new goals in the upcoming year. And I think that would help me at least. So as I'm reflecting on your words, Jamie, I'm kind of just spitballing now, but I kind of like that approach.
Well, and I'm going to reflect on your words and take you back just a little bit new agey. What?
It's the whole word on intention. I'm a little sensitive to that word,
which is hilarious, because I'm like, when you had kids, did you intend things to be, when you decided to be a parent, did you intend to wake up and get out of bed this morning?
I didn't ask you to psychoanalyze me. I'm just saying it sounds a little new agey.
Well, and I guess I just want to make sure it's clear that I'm not like lighting incense and sprinkling patchouli oil around my house when I'm setting intentions for the year.
I love the new crystal you have strapped to your forehead, Jamie. It looks very nice.
Oh, it's good. It's good. No, it just makes me laugh how a word can have that kind of connotation like that. Like, and then you said new agey and I'm like, wait a minute, what? It's fantastic. No, there's definitely, it's really, I guess for me, it really is about pouring my energy into things that are important. And, it's almost like there's this thing that we do with work at my job. We do a lot of goal setting, right? But it's always interesting to me to see how different people look at goal setting and how they go about doing it. And I think, for me, it's always good for me to try and get that overall, like, this is overall what I want, right? I want to be more balanced between home life and work, or I want to experience more joy, right? That's like the overall cloud that we're trying to hang. And then underneath that, there are specific steps, there are specific goals that we can create. Things like, I'm going to go to the gym every day of the week, or I'm going to write in a gratitude journal every day of the week, or I'm going to whatever it is, right? And I think those are the spaces where it's really easy for us humans to get bogged down in those details and then beat ourselves up. When we set those kind of goals where it's super specific, which is an important part of goal setting. Don't get me wrong. Being specific is important when you're setting goals. But at the same time, I think it's more important that we look at what's achievable and what's realistic. And going to the gym every day is just not realistic. Sickness happens, accidents happen, all kinds of things happen to keep us from doing those things. And so, being more realistic in those goals frees us up and offers some space for grace that we can give ourselves in order to not lose hope that we can't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, and again, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned in my job, we had to do our year-end review and kind of put together our plan for the next year. But something's been percolating in my mind, and you kind of just touched on it, or at least reminded me just a second ago, which is in all of our goals. And I get it. I don't want to be a negative person. I don't tend to be a negative person. I don't want to live in the negative all the time. But I think using the negative to kind of shape our positive is a powerful tool. And I think people forget that sometimes. And I know I do, at least. And one of the things that's in my goals, and I'm probably going to do a really bad job articulating it here as I continue to formulate it in my mind, so just bear with me, is looking back and seeing my year of growth, that's one thing. And I love doing that. I love seeing where I started to where I am today, being able to kind of look back and say, wow, I've grown in these areas. I've gained these new skills. All of that is wonderful. But I almost feel like there needs to be an acceptance and an awareness and even a mention of, here's how my plan didn't come together as I thought. And here's what I did to either ride out the disruption, or here's how I overcame it. Because it seems like when we're talking about goals, and I'll even lump in to for the episode, our New Year's resolutions, we always look at them as if we've completed or we haven't completed them. And I feel like that's a little bit of that's not really showing the true value of growth that has happened from an individual's perspective. And I'm thinking of a time at my work where I've had to set goals, and then you reflect on them and you're like, yes, did I meet those goals? Yes. Did I exceed them? Yes. Here's how I did it. Or did you meet these goals? No. And why didn't you meet these goals? And you list it. I feel like there needs to be some sort of, and I don't know what you'd call it, some sort of section in there that says, here's how my plan changed throughout the year, and here's how I adapted to that. Because I think that's something that people really lose track of. This skill is adaptability. And yes, it may not be the end result that you claimed 12 months prior, but don't discount that. Don't discount the ability to adapt to your year or to the situations, because because of how you adapted, it may have ended your year completely different than what you've planned, but that's not a failure. And I think again, I'm rambling, so kind of jump in and help me there, Jamie. But in my mind, there just needs to be this section that says, how well did you adapt in the year? Because to me, that's a better measurement of success than it is, did you meet the goals you set 12 months earlier?
I'm not going to lie, Malin. Every time I hear the words goal setting, I kind of want to just like against the wall, right? Like, yeah, I get so frustrated by goal setting, and because it feels so yucky. And I think that's part of it, is because when we measure ourselves against black and white goals on a piece of paper, it's really easy to assess and assign failure or success, and in a really inaccurate way. It's terrible, and I think that's part of why the intention, I'm using air quotes, my intention setting, feels so much better, because it's like, I mean, yeah, did I have to do balance 2 or 3 years in a row? Yep, I did. But was I more balanced the second year than I was the year that I started it? Yeah, I was. And it felt good. And I wanted to keep working on that. I wanted to keep moving toward that. And so, that's part of why it was set a couple of years in a row, because it felt good to see that growth and to see what that felt like when it was shifting. I feel like balance really could probably be my intention every year of my life, because I feel like that's just kind of the nature of me as a person. But, I do feel like, well, and I feel like we've kind of talked about it before too, like this idea of like, am I doing this to avoid the consequence, or am I doing this because I want the outcome, right? And it feels like to me, sometimes when I'm setting those resolutions or those goals, it's because I didn't like this, and I want to do this thing instead. And it feels more like I'm moving away from a consequence or moving away from something I didn't like. Whereas when I'm setting an intention, it feels more like, and I'm using the air quotes again, intention. You're going to make me all self-conscious about that word now.
Namaste, Jamie. Namaste.
It's good. It's good. Well, and honestly, I'm cool with that. I am cool with namaste if we're gonna be like, I mean, if it keeps working the way it's been working for me, I'll go with it. I'm good.
All I'm excited about is that I can still push your buttons in 2024. Yes. I'm just kidding.
2024, and I don't know, the last like 35 years or whatever it's been. Anyway. um, the intention piece of it feels like me setting something that I'm shooting for rather than something that I'm moving away from, if that makes sense to you. Like, I think that's why I have kind of adapted that as a way to go for moving forward rather than the resolution and goal setting and, those kind of things. Not that there's not a place for goal setting, because I do that even in my intentions. But it feels different because the intent is different.
Yeah.
Air
And
quotes.
well, and I think that in air quotes, I think that's also a part that's missing is when I set these goals, I'm going to just mimic a lot of what you said. So I'm not going to bore you and everybody else, but yes, it feels like there's this element missing that says, hey, I've set these goals. Now I'm evaluating them black and white. And did you miss them? Did you miss the goal or did you make the goal? And then we move on. And what I really enjoyed what you just said, because it's challenging me a little bit, is, when I heard you say you had the same goal twice in a year, my internal self was like, well, you can't do that. Like, why you have to have a new goal? Like, honestly,
Wait
I
a
was
minute.
like,
Are there universal rules to intentions and resolutions?
in my book, yes. And you broke one of them. And I'm glad you broke one of them because it challenged me for a second because I wanted to come on and be like, well, you can't have the same goal twice in a row. And then as we were talking, I was like, but wait a minute. I think that's pretty genius because how many times, and I'm just saying for me, how many times do I set a goal and I make it and then it's like a check mark, right? I'm done. And then I move on to something else. Well, what was the point of me making that goal? What was the point of me achieving it? If it wasn't to use it in some way going forward, I would argue, why did I have that as a goal? Or why did I have that as an intention or, whatever. So to me, I was thinking here and I was going, wow, there's been a lot of goals that I've set for myself that I've achieved and then did nothing with them. So really, how valuable were they? How valuable were they that I achieved these goals on paper? And I've, yes, I might have learned different skills along the way, and I don't want to discount that. But the whole reason why I put these goals or these resolutions into motion was for a specific reason. And then I achieved that, and then I just kind of put them away and never look at them again. I mean, that seems kind of crazy. So I almost think going forward, I'm going to adopt that and put that someplace in my personal and my work goals where it says, here's my goals for the new year. Here's what I want to learn. But one of my goals is here's how I'm going to use the goal that I just achieved in the previous year. So that's a little bit of a different lens too. And I like that a lot. So as again, my mouth is open and my mind is swirling here, but as I'm taking those pieces together, setting the purpose or the intention or the goal, maybe pulling up what accomplishments we made from the previous year to set that as a goal to say, now I want to continue using this and refining it. And then having a place to say, but here's how you can account for adaptability within the year and how you achieved maybe not the goal you started out with, but the goal you ended up with because you had to adapt and focus in on some of those other positives. I think that starts giving me a well-rounded view of the year in review for me. I know there's some work that I need to do to kind of buff out some of those ideas, but I'm kind of loving where this is starting to go.
Well, and I really like the way you articulated that because it is, yes, that is exactly, it's kind of like teaching to the test, right? Like I'm learning these things so I can take the test and then I forget these things, right? The truth of the matter is that I can check those boxes. I can check the box and go to the gym every single day for 365 or 360, however many days, for a year. And if I don't, like, it would be like going into the gym and doing nothing. Like I stepped inside the gym. So we're going to call that check, right? And that's not the point.
Guilty.
That's not the purpose.
I have done that before. I just went there to go to record. I have swung by the gym, walked in, picked up a child and said, wow, I went to the gym today, and then left. And I knew I was fooling myself, but I'm just raising my hand. That was me.
Well, and honestly, some days you need that. Some days you just need the win, right? Like I totally get that. But I feel like, and there are, I guess I just want to acknowledge that there are benefits to actually meeting those kind of goals. Like you boost your confidence in knowing I can do hard things. I can accomplish something that seems impossible. And that is beneficial too. So I don't want to diminish, like the people who set goals the way they set goals, go for it if it works for you. And I think, as we kind of wind down toward the end, that's kind of what I was hoping we could talk about, is like, do what works for you, because guess what? What works for me is totally different than what's going to work for you. And I've got some weird things that I have to do when I'm doing some stuff. So,
well, and you said earlier, there's no universal guidebook to any of this. And so, in high school, I don't know if you remember, but planners really became popular in school. So everybody had a planner, everybody had to-do lists. And I had a friend in school, her name was Chrissy, and she told me about there's some sort of psychological like reward you get when you make a list and you can start checking them off. Yes.
Absolutely.
And yep. I never got into that whole craze with a planner. But then when I got into my professional career and I had to make plans and goals, I started creating like checklists and to-do lists and things to make sure that I was on track to complete my goals. And it was oddly satisfying when you could get by the end of the day and you're like, I've got nothing done. And you go look at your to-do list and you're able to take like 4 things off. You're like, oh, wait, I was productive. Wow, that's awesome. And then tomorrow doesn't feel as daunting as it did 5 minutes ago because you thought, oh, I have all the work from today and I have all the work tomorrow. And then you start seeing the stuff that's done. So there was a little bit of truth to that. But yeah, I don't think there is a right or wrong way. I just like hearing what like other people, like what you do, ask these questions around, do we spend enough time on the things that we bring with us year after year, and should we bring them on, and how does that shape what we look forward to, and how do we set those goals, intentions, New Year's resolutions, whatever it is, and how do we make them in a way that we can recognize that even if the goal wasn't 100% met, even if it was 85% completed, there's still wins within that 85%, and why should the 15% that we didn't achieve color all of the 85 that we did do as a failure when there's so many learning opportunities and advancements and probably things that we had to adapt ourselves to and overcome throughout the year that we just kind of color that as a failure because we didn't get across the finish line. Again, I'm going to reiterate for the third time on goals that we set 12 months prior. I mean, that just seems silly when you say it like that out loud.
Well, and so for me, anytime I want to start something or stop something, I can't start on a Wednesday. I have to start on Monday. Period. End of story. If I'm going to meal plan, it has to start on a Monday. If I'm going to
wait a minute. So if you come up with this really great idea on a Tuesday, you won't implement it till the following Monday?
No. Monday. It has to be Monday. And you know me, I'm not like a hugely legalistic person, but for some reason, like, and truthfully, I do think it's mindset, because for me, that's the beginning of a new week. It's the start of something new. And that is that motion for me, is that, it's a fresh start. It's a new beginning. Now, I also think, every day is a new beginning, and I get that. But for some reason, Monday has power. I have given Monday power.
So I'm actually shocked that our episodes get released on Tuesdays and Thursdays then. Does that drive you nuts that it's not a Monday?
No.
Okay.
But Tuesday and Thursday has symmetry to it, because there's a little bit of that in me too. I just don't ask. But anyway, that is, and then also it's really important for me to break it down into smaller pieces. And so I think that's been the benefit of the intention, air quote. Every time I say intention now, it's going to be with air quotes.
You're going to walk around the rest of your life being like, intentions, air quote.
Exactly. Because Malin made fun of me once for intentions. Just kidding. But no, I think the beauty of setting an intention for me is that it gives me that big target, right? Like, it's the big target that I can see even 12 months away. I can see how this could benefit me. And then as I go, I can come up with small strategies or small pieces to reaching or attaining that intention for me. So for instance, I'm still kind of formulating this year's intention a little bit. I haven't come up with the word, because the word is important to me. I'm kind of a word person. So,
well, you have until Monday, Jamie. So
you mean 4 days ago, right? the time warp of podcasting, it will forever elude me. I'm not going to lie. But I'm still trying to figure out for sure what I want that word to be, because I do think words are important and words have value and weight to them. But I really want to, I don't know, it's like peace or joy. I can't figure out what it is, but there have been these little glimpses throughout the end of this year. After the kids moved out, after I kind of got over, the big feelings, the big initial feelings of that, where it was really amazing how relaxed I could be and just laugh and enjoy a moment, when I know previously, especially like 5 years ago, I was so uptight about everything because I felt like I had to keep the whole world under control and wrapped around and keep it going the way it was supposed to be going. And it's been kind of surprising to me how much more relaxed I can be than I have ever been as a parent. And so I'm trying to formulate what that's going to look like. But in that, I think it's going to be things like find an adventure this week, find something that sparks adventure, find something that sparks joy. And some of those smaller tasks, I think, will help me practice that and get better at it. If that makes any sense. Is that too new agey for you, Malin?
No, and I'm gonna participate in your new agey ritual here. If I had to think of a word, just to participate with you, I think the word for 2024 is going to be disruptor. Not that I'm saying that I'm going to put things to actively disrupt my life, but on the horizon in 2024, I see the potential for different disruptors to come, things that we've never experienced. The main one, and I'm sure everyone's tired of me talking about it, is my daughter going off to college. And I think if I take some time now to recognize that this 2024 is going to be different than any other year that I've ever experienced, other than when I left home and went to college and left my parents, although that was all positive. They were wonderful people, but to start off on your own journey, your own life is kind of great.
Oh, no, it was positive for you. And regardless whether your parents showed you or not, your parents felt the same way you're about to feel. I promise you. Preach.
So for me, if I'm looking at this from, different eyes and different experience, I think that's going to be the word I don't know what that means yet. I don't know exactly what that means, but I think if I had to do the word with you, my word for 2024 would be disruptive or disruptor.
So is disruptor your intent?
Maybe surviving it. Maybe that's where that adaptability piece comes in. Again, my intention is to I know disruptions are coming. How do I handle them? How do I overcome them? How do I minimize them? Maybe in my mind, I'm already thinking about them. And when they finally come, it's going to be painful. It's going to be different, but maybe it's not going to be earth shattering like I think it is. So maybe it's more just, how do I brace myself, insulate myself to know when these disruptors finally come, how am I overcoming them? Again, I'm still formulating. So just spitballing, if I had to kind of jump into the pool with you, that's the word that I would gravitate towards right now.
I'm just excited that you're even thinking about jumping in the pool with me. So, that new agey ritual, as I roll my eyes, join the dark side, my friend. I'm just kidding. Well, and to bring it around full circle, I guess the other piece, as we come to an end and start a new beginning, another piece for me really has been, especially this year, it's like a new awareness for me of those regrets. And, I consider myself a pretty strength-based person, a pretty forward motion person, right? And so when you and I started talking about like the regrets, and you're like, okay, but do you have something you can share during this? What's interesting is that I feel like I do have regrets, and I have a lot of them, but I work so hard in my life to try and learn from those things and take those lessons forward, that I don't always call them regrets, I guess. I feel like they're more like learning opportunities. And that's something that I've been taught to do through my work for years, right? Successes, like I don't call them successes and failures. They're like successes and learning opportunities or growth moments or those kind of things. But, I choose to look at those things in a different way. And I feel like that does help me build my belief in my ability to move forward in a positive way and to continue growing rather than being stuck in grief and regret, if that makes sense.
No, I love that. I love that because if you can look at what would be considered a negative, the missed opportunities or the goals you didn't meet, or even, there's disruptors that happened and the areas you had to become adaptable because the unforeseen happened. If you can take those and somehow put a spin on those to say, even those that would be traditionally considered negative, there's positives that come from those because I can take those learning opportunities and I can apply them in areas of my life or my work or wherever that I never even thought about before. Well, then you almost, I don't want to say welcome those, but when they happen, okay, there's something I'm going to take from them. So they're not just this, because I think that was my problem is when I was younger, is that I would have these things come up and these failures, and it would just be completely written off, right? Like I didn't meet my goal. These things happened. I missed the boat. Okay, next year I'll try harder. And then you just kind of file them away. Where today, where I'm at is let's open those up a little bit. I said earlier, 85% your goal was completed and 15% it wasn't. Now I spend a lot of time on the 15% than I do the 85 because I'm like, let's go through that 15%. Why were some of these things happening? Were they foreseeable? Are there lessons that I could have learned or applied, or are there things that I could have seen coming that I just didn't pay attention to? Like, how do I consume these in a way that I can now make them a positive for me going forward, rather than just saying like, well, my whole goal was a failure. I can't do this. I'm beating myself up. Maybe next year I'll be better. I think that's the key. And I think the more we can do that, the more people can do that, the more we'll realize that even when we have failures or missed opportunities or whatever we're going to call them, they still help us grow towards our goals, or even maybe create new goals that we never even thought about before. And that's kind of exciting stuff. So
I guess I just look forward to the beginning of a new year every single year, because it does feel like that fresh start. It does feel like that fresh space to refocus and rethink what I've been doing and where I want to go from here. And so, and I guess what's cool is that we not only do I do that in like my personal life and my family life and my work life, but I get to do it here with our podcast too. So, I'm kind of excited for some of the things that are coming as we move forward with our podcast, and some of the guests that we have planned and some of the topics we plan to cover. I don't know that I'm looking as forward to the whole political landscape that you are, my friend, but I know this is an area of excitement for you, but no, I guess I have grown so much through this, even you and I as friends, as much as I was like, oh gosh, I know everything about him. We've known each other for 150 years. Right. It amazes me sometimes how much I still hear that I didn't know before.
Same.
And yeah, to come into these conversations without an assumption of, oh, I know how this is going to go. I need to work harder at that, because I still walk into these conversations. I'm like, oh, I know exactly where Malin's going to stand on this. And you surprise me sometimes. So yeah, I don't know. This is even causing a bunch of personal growth for me, and it's really fun. So
gotta duck and weave with me. Well, again, I can mimic a lot of those same things, and but I kind of want to get into some fun stuff with the metrics around the podcast. Since you kind of brought it up, this might be a good segue. Again, ooh. I'm not going through all of them, but I just want to touch on some of the highlights that, it's been a year since we decided to start recording and getting our equipment and starting to put the name of the show together and all that. Our first episode, that anniversary is coming up in April. So as I'm reflecting on not quite a whole year of metrics, I just thought it was kind of fitting just to kind of talk on some of these things. And I think they're a surprise to you too, Jamie. I don't know if you've seen these or not, but just want to share these with our listeners. So do you know what our top episode from 2023 was?
I guess I would imagine it would be just because of the way I listen to podcasts, it would be the origin, like our very first episode, right?
It was for the longest time, but no, there's another episode that is more listened to than that.
Wait, never mind. It's book banning, isn't it?
I giggle because we've heard so much about book banning, and yes, we are doing a follow-up. We have things in motion. But no, it is episode 10, and this is going to make you smile or cringe. I can't decide which one. Gender equality in the workplace, the power of allies in creating a more equitable and inclusive workplace is our most listened to episode.
Is it really?
197% more than our average episodes.
Oh,
I know it.
I'm really surprised by that.
I know.
Although I'll tell you what, I will tell you that probably the episode I heard the most about in my personal circle was probably that one.
Yeah.
Like
it has the most, I would say, I don't want to say polarizing, but I've heard a lot from people that would comment on that. It's either they completely, it's either they pick, I pick these words very carefully. They either choose your side or my side of the conversation. There's really no middle ground. A lot of the other episodes we've done, you can see people kind of fall on the middle ground. The people that talk to me about that particular episode, it's either one side or the other. And I don't really blame them because if you remember, it was kind of a difficult conversation for us to record. And
I feel like it took us 3 times to record that, before we had something palatable enough to put out there.
Exactly. Another thing that is out there is we went global in our first year of podcasting.
Well, we went global in our first 5. What episode was book banning? Because we hit Russia with book banning, right?
That was episode 4, I believe. But I will call this global, where we hit more than just one country. So for our listeners, we, in our first year, not even 12 months, we are in 23 countries now. So we are across the globe and have a lot of listeners in a lot of different countries tuning in now, which is kind of fun.
Ooh, how many continents have we hit? Did you look at that? Like, we're in every continent?
We're in every continent except, I think it's Oceania. I don't think we're in, well, maybe we're in that one. We might be in every single one. I have to go take a look.
Oh, interesting.
So no, those were just a couple of highlights that I just wanted to kind of share. Again, we're pulling together all of the metrics we're getting from all of our platforms. And so we're hopefully, if people are interested, we'll post those on our socials just to kind of see that. But Jamie, as I kind of go through this stuff that I wanted to share, do you know what our most shared episode was from 23?
Oh, goodness. The most shared episode?
The one our listeners would share with their friends, family, social media.
No, I have no idea. Was it book banning?
No, book banning. It was not book banning. Which, again, I'm surprised because we hear a lot about book banning.
Book banning had made an impression on me too, apparently, guys. So,
yep. It was episode 8, Father's Abortion Rights, was our most shared episode.
How much of that sharing did you do, though? That would be...
Yeah, I don't know about that by any means, but I thought that was interesting that our most shared episode was different than our most downloaded episode. I would think it would be one and the same, but...
Huh. Well, and we're pretty close to being in every state in the United States, right?
Yes, we are in all but I want to say 5 or 6 states. So
pretty good. If you know someone in Wyoming or Alaska or
South Dakota,
Delaware, South Dakota.
Up in the Maine, that northeast tip part of the United States, we're not in a lot of those states like Maine and Delaware.
So share if you have somebody in those areas. No, I'm just kidding. I was going to say even just for one download, because it'll make me feel happy. I don't know.
Vermont, New Hampshire. If you're listening, we thank you because we don't have anybody in those states either. So, but again, I didn't want to belabor the point. I just wanted to share a couple fun things that we've seen as of, as 2023 closed and we're looking ahead in 2024. I just thought that was kind of shocking. So
it's so cool. It's so cool. This has just been such a fun thing. it has made 2023 pretty fun, pretty adventurous. I've gotten to meet a lot of people that I don't know that I would have met. No, I know for a fact that I wouldn't have met if it wasn't for this platform. And I have gotten to talk about things that I didn't know that anyone would care what I thought about. And it's just been kind of fun. So, yeah.
Quite the ride.
On to new things in 2024, my friend.
Yes. So, okay, with that, we should probably let everybody go. Thank you again to everybody that's listening, that's been with us since the beginning, that's just joining us. I don't want to, we don't want to say this with every episode, but since we're kind of reflecting, please, share, like, if wherever you're listening to this podcast, if you haven't left us a review, if you could please do that, that would help us reach other people. Share it with a friend, family, whatever you can do to help support us. That would be great. That allows Jamie and I to, continue putting more focus and time and energy into this as we continue to, what did we realize? We're content creators now. So as we continue down and creating more content, it'll just help us overall. So if you would do that for us, we'd really appreciate it.
Something we reflected on today. Oh my gosh, we are content creators, right? I also think we would love to hear from you. If you have a topic idea or, something you'd like to hear from us on our episodes, we'd sure love to hear about it. And you can reach us through our social media outlets on Facebook, Threads, and Instagram, and small presence on TikTok. We're getting there. Or you can reach us on our email at roundtablemindset@gmail.com, or the phone number that you'll hear at the end of this, because every time I try to say it, I screw it up. So I'm not going to say it, but it's in our tag at the end here. So
yeah.
But yeah, thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time here on Roundtable Mindset. Have a great week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. This podcast was recorded and edited by Jamie and Malin. Music by Famous Cats. If you have a topic you'd like us to discuss, please email us at roundtablemindset@gmail.com. Text or call us at 402-819-8999, or join the conversation on Facebook at Roundtable Mindset Podcast.
And never miss a new episode by making sure you like, subscribe, and share wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for being our guest today. See you next time at the Roundtable. And remember, your opinions and perspectives matter and are appreciated, but might not always be shared by others, and that's okay.